The registration hall echoed with strange voices from 100 different worlds. David Reed walked through the crowd with Forge beside him, feeling every eye turn their way. The dragon's red scales caught the light from overhead panels, making him look like a moving flame. Other warriors stepped back as they passed, but not from fear, from confusion. "Is that a lizard?" someone said in broken galactic common. Laughter rippled through the hall. David kept his face neutral and continued toward the registration desk. He had expected this reaction. Earth was new to the galactic community, and nobody out here knew what a dragon really was. The registration official was an insectoid named Rilf. His compound eyes studied them both before his mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Species, human," David said, and dragon. Classification of companion. Partner, not companion. More laughter from the watching crowd. Rilf made notation on his datapad without looking up. The tournament allows bonded pairs. Your creature qualifies as your second. You will fight in tomorrow's elimination round. Understood. I should warn you, Rilf said, finally meeting David's eyes. The mortality rate for first-time participants is 73%. Perhaps you should reconsider. David felt Forge's presence in his mind, calm and steady like deep water. They had trained for this moment for 5 years. "We're ready." Rilf's mandibles twitched again. "As you wish. You face Gorvin's team in the first match. May your deaths be quick." They turned to leave and found their path blocked by a massive reptilian warrior. Gorvin stood nearly 8 feet tall with scales like armored plates and arms thick as tree trunks. 2 smaller fighters flanked him, both heavily armed with plasma weapons. "Human," Gorvin's voice rumbled like rocks grinding together. "I have seen your species in the database. Weak, soft, no natural weapons, no automat, no venom." His eyes shifted to Forge. "And you bring a pet to battle?" David met his gaze without flinching. "We'll see tomorrow." Gorvin laughed, a sound like boulders rolling downhill. "I will crush your pet first. Make you watch. Then I will break you slowly." The crowd around them had gone quiet, watching the confrontation. David felt Forge's amusement through their bond. The dragon's tail swished once, a lazy movement that looked almost bored. "Big words," David said quietly. "Let's see if your skills match them." He walked past Gorvin without waiting for a response. Forge followed, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something his size. Behind them, the crowd burst into conversation. They found their assigned quarters in the lower levels of the arena complex. The room was simple: 2 rest platforms, a wash station, and a supply locker. David began checking his equipment while Forge settled onto the larger platform. "They think we're a joke," David said aloud. Forge's voice entered his mind, warm and ancient. "Let them think what they wish. Truth reveals itself in action, not words." David smiled and continued his gear check. His armor was light compared to what the other warriors wore, designed for speed and flexibility. The weapon harness held a plasma rifle and 2 combat blades. Simple tools, but effective in the right hands. Through the wall, he could hear other fighters preparing. Weapons being charged, war cries being practiced, the sound of violence getting ready to be unleashed. "Gorvin is strong," Forge observed. "His team coordinates well. They have fought together for many cycles." "I noticed." David sat on his platform and closed his eyes, letting his mind drift into the bond. Through Forge's senses, he could feel the heat in the room, smell the ozone from nearby weapons, hear heartbeats from 3 chambers away. The dragon's awareness was vast compared to human perception. "They expect you to hide behind me," Forge continued, "to let me fight while you cower. Then we'll surprise them, as we always do." David opened his eyes. Through the narrow window, he could see the main arena floor far below. Tomorrow, that space would be filled with blood and fire. Crowds would scream. Warriors would die. And everyone expected him and Forge to be among the fallen. That a notification chimed on the room's communication panel. David activated it and saw Rilf's face appear. "Human, the betting pools have opened. Current odds of your survival stand at 200 to 1 against. Several spectators have requested that your match be broadcast live as entertainment. I have approved this request." Fine. I should also inform you that Gorvin has won 47 consecutive victories. His last opponent's remains were too damaged to identify. Sleep well, human. The screen went dark. David looked at Forge and found the dragon watching him with eyes that glowed like embers. They don't understand, David said. No, they see a human and an animal. They cannot imagine what we truly are. David stood and placed his hand on Forge's neck, feeling the warmth of the scales and the steady pulse of ancient blood beneath. The bond between them thrummed with power, a connection deeper than words or thought. 5 years of training. 5 years of learning to move as one, think as one, fight as one. Tomorrow we show them, David said. Tomorrow they learn. The night passed slowly. David rested, but did not sleep deeply, his mind rehearsing tactics and strategies. Forge remained still, but his consciousness never dimmed, always alert and ready. Through their bond, they shared thoughts and combat scenarios, preparing for every possibility. When morning came, the arena's announcement system activated throughout the complex. All participants in Elimination Round 1 report to staging areas. First match begins in 1 standard hour. David suited up methodically, each piece of armor locked into place with practiced precision, weapons checked and rechecked. Forge stretched his wings, the membrane catching the light like stained glass. They walked to the staging area together. Other fighters stared and whispered. Some laughed. Others shook their heads in disbelief that anyone so weak-looking would dare enter the arena. Eye in the distance, David could hear the crowd gathering. Thousands of voices from dozens of worlds, all hungry for violence and spectacle. He took a deep breath and felt Forge's calm settle over him like a blanket. The staging gate began to open, revealing the arena floor beyond. Bright lights, roaring crowd, and across the space, 3 figures waiting, Gorvin and his team. Ready, brother? Forge's voice in his mind. David's hand found the grip of his rifle. Always. They stepped forward into the light, and the real battle began. The arena floor stretched 200 meters across, its surface a mix of rock formations and metal platforms. Heat vents hissed steam at random intervals, and the walls displayed holographic advertisements for various galactic corporations. Above, the crowd filled every seat, their voices creating a wall of sound that pressed down from all sides. David and Forge emerged from their gate on the eastern side. Across the arena, Gorvin's team entered from the west. The massive reptilian warrior raised his arms, and the crowd roared approval. His 2 companions, both cybernetically enhanced fighters named Skrell and Hunter, moved to flank positions. The arena announcer's voice boomed through speakers. Combatants ready. This match will continue until surrender or elimination. Lethal force is permitted. Medical teams stand by. Begin. Gorvin charged immediately. His team had clearly planned this opening, overwhelmed the weak human and his pet before they could react. Hunter activated stealth camouflage and disappeared. Skrell began charging energy bolts in both hands. David dropped to one knee and raised his rifle. Forge launched skyward with 2 powerful wing beats. The crowd gasped. Few had expected the dragon to actually fly. Gorvin's charge faltered for just a moment as Forge's shadow passed over him. That moment was all David needed. His first shot caught Gorvin in the shoulder joint where his armor plates met. The big warrior roared and stumbled. Skrell fired 3 energy bolts at David's position. David rolled left, already moving before the attack came. Through his bond with Forge, he could see the battlefield from above, tracking all 3 opponents simultaneously. It was like having eyes in 2 places at once. Hunter reappeared behind David, blades extended from his forearms. He never saw Forge coming. The dragon dropped from the sky like a falling star. 1,500 pounds of muscle and scales slammed into Hunter with devastating force. The assassin's stealth field crackled and died. His weapons shattered against Forge's armored hide. David felt the impact through their bond and was already turning toward Skrell. The energy wielder's eyes went wide as he realized his mistake. He had focused on where David was, not where he would be point 2 shots. Center mass. Skrell's shields flared and died. He collapsed, unconscious before he hit the ground. Gorvin recovered and came at them with renewed fury. His fists were like hammers, each blow powerful enough to crush steel. But David wasn't there anymore. He moved like water, flowing around the attacks, letting Forge's awareness guide him. The dragon's voice filled his mind. Left, low, high, duck. David moved on instinct, his body responding to Forge's guidance before his conscious mind processed the information. This was what 5 years of bonding created, perfect synchronization between two minds. Gorvin grew frustrated. He swung wider, faster, abandoning technique for raw power. David waited for the opening that IT came when Gorvin overextended on a right cross. David slipped inside his guard and fired point-blank into the big warrior's knee joint. Armor meant nothing at this range. Gorvin's leg buckled. Forge hit him from the side. The impact sent Gorvin sliding across the arena floor. He tried to rise, but his damaged leg couldn't support his weight. Blood dripped from his shoulder wound. His team was down. David walked toward him, rifle ready but not aimed. Surrender. Gorvin's eyes blazed with hatred. Never. Kill me, or I will hunt you forever. That's not how this works, David said. The rules allow surrender. Surrender is for the weak. Forge landed beside David, shaking the ground with his weight. The dragon's jaws opened slightly, revealing teeth like daggers and a glow building in his throat. Heat rippled the air. David felt his partner's readiness but sent a pulse of calm through their bond. We don't need to kill him. He will not yield. Then we make him. David raised his rifle and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Not at Gorvin, but at the ground around him. Each impact sent fragments of stone and metal flying. The message was clear. We could have killed you 10 times over. Gorvin stared at the smoking impact points. His mandibles worked, but no sound came out. Finally, his hand moved to the surrender panel on his armor and pressed it. A tone sounded through the arena. The announcer's voice returned, confused. Surrender registered. Match concluded. Time, 2 minutes, 47 seconds. Winners, David, Reed, and Forge. The crowd was silent. David and Forge turned and walked back toward their gate. Behind them, medical teams rushed onto the arena floor to treat the injured fighters. Gorvin remained sitting, staring at his own blood on the stone in the staging area. Other competitors watched them pass. Nobody laughed now. A few nodded with new respect. Most just stared. Rilf waited at the entrance to their quarters. His compound eyes studied them both carefully. That was unexpected. We trained for this, David said. Clearly, the betting pools are in chaos. Many spectators lost significant currency. Others are now placing very different wagers on your survival. When is our next match? Tomorrow. You will face Team Vortok in the second elimination round. They are experienced, dangerous. They will not underestimate you, as Gorvin did. Good, David said. We prefer opponents who take us seriously. Rilfa's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of amusement in his species. You are either very brave or very foolish, human. I have not decided which. Does it matter? Perhaps not. Win or lose, you have provided excellent entertainment. The arena profits, and that is what matters. He turned to leave, then paused. One thing, human, your bond with the dragon. I have seen many species fight with companions. Vaba usts, trained animals, cybernetic servants. But I have never seen what you two display. How is this possible? David looked at Forge. The dragon's eyes glowed softly in the dim corridor. We're not master and servant, David said finally. We're brothers. That makes all the difference. Rilf considered this. Interesting. I will be watching your next match with great curiosity. He left them alone. Inside their quarters, David stripped off his armor and checked for damage. Everything was intact. Forge settled onto his platform and closed his eyes, but David could feel his awareness still sharp through their bond. You wanted to burn him, David said. He challenged us. Threatened you. Dragon instinct demands response. I know, but we're not here to kill everyone who insults us. What are we here for, then? David sat on his platform and looked at his partner. to show them what humans and dragons can do together, to prove we deserve respect. Killing everyone doesn't accomplish that. Forge's tail swished thoughtfully. You are wise beyond your years, small brother. I learned from an ancient dragon, and I learned from a young human. Perhaps that is the true strength of our bond. David smiled and lay back. His body ached from the brief fight. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opponents. But tonight, they had proven something important. The communication panel chimed. David activated it and saw a face he didn't recognize. A four-armed alien with gray skin and intelligent eyes. Human David, I am Torn. I watch your match today. You fight with honor and skill. If we meet in the arena, I will face you with respect. Thank you, Torn. The same to you. One question, if I may. Your dragon. He did not use fire. Why? David glanced at Forge. We didn't need it. Why reveal all our capabilities in the first match? Torn's expression shifted to something that might have been a smile. Wise. Very wise. I look forward to learning more about Earth Warriors. May your battles bring glory. The screen went dark. David closed his eyes and let exhaustion pull him towards sleep. Through the bond, he felt Forge's contentment, warm and solid as sunlight on stone. They had won their first battle. Many more awaited. But tonight, the galaxy had learned one important lesson. Never underestimate a human with a dragon. 3 days passed in a rhythm of combat and rest. David and Forge fought twice more, each victory coming faster than the last. The crowd that had laughed at their first appearance now cheered when they entered the arena. Betting odds shifted dramatically in their favor. The fourth match brought a new challenge. The arena's environmental controls activated, transforming the battlefield into a zero-gravity zone. Floating platforms drifted in three-dimensional space, and the usual ground tactics became useless. David's opponents were a team of 3 methane breathers in environmental suits. They had trained extensively for zero-gravity combat and moved through the space with practiced ease, using small thrusters to adjust their momentum. Forge adapted instantly. Wings that provided lift in atmosphere became rudders in the void. The dragon spiraled through the floating platforms like a fish through water, his mass and momentum perfectly controlled. David struggled at first. Human bodies weren't designed for three-dimensional combat. But through the bond, Forge's spatial awareness became his. He learned to think in terms of vectors and trajectories rather than up and down. The match lasted 6 minutes. When it ended, all 3 opponents had surrendered, their suits damaged but not breached. David had learned to trust the bond completely, letting Forge's instincts guide his movements through the alien environment. Rilth waited for them after the match. Impressive. Most species require years to master zero-gravity combat. You adapted in minutes. We adapt together, David said. The 5th match came 2 days later. This time the arena filled with water, a murky green liquid that limited visibility to a few meters. David's opponents were aquatic species, perfectly suited to the environment. Again, Forge proved the key. Dragons could hold their breath for hours, and their eyes could see clearly through water. David attached himself to Forge's back, and they became a single fighting unit. Moving through the liquid darkness like a predatory shark, the aquatic fighters never stood a chance. They expected a human to drown or panic. Instead, they found themselves hunted by something far more dangerous than they had imagined. Surrender came after 4 minutes. The semifinals brought David and Forge against Torrent's team. The four-armed warrior had been true to his word. When they met in the arena, he bowed respectfully. His 2 teammates did the same. Human David, Dragon Forge, today we will test our skills against yours. May the best warriors prevail. David returned the bow. Fight well, Torn. Show us what you can do. The match was the hardest they had fought. Torren and his team worked together flawlessly, using tactics refined over decades of competition. They knew how to counter bonded pairs, having faced them before. They knew to disrupt the connection, to separate partners, and eliminate them individually. But they had never faced a bond like David and Forge shared. When Torren tried to flank David, Forge knew instantly and adjusted position. When one teammate attempted to blind the dragon with flash grenades, David's human adaptability found a counter. They moved as one organism with two bodies, anticipating and responding faster than any opponent could track. The arena floor cracked under the force of their combat. Energy weapons scorched the air. Torin's strength was immense, but David's strategy was better. When the match ended after 12 brutal minutes, both teams were exhausted. Torin raised his hand in surrender. All four arms spread wide. Enough. You have proven your worth, human. I can fight no longer with honor intact. David helped Torin to his feet. You fought brilliantly, but not brilliantly enough. Your bond with Forge is something I have never witnessed. It is not master and servant, not even true partnership as I understand it. You are one being in two forms. That's exactly right. Torin's eyes showed respect. Earth has produced something remarkable. When this tournament ends, I will petition my government to establish formal relations with your world. The galaxy should know you better. They parted as friends. David and Forge returned to their quarters to prepare for the finals. The championship match was scheduled for 3 days later. Their opponents had been decided: Kravik and his war beast Rengor. David spent those 3 days researching his final opponent. What he learned troubled him. Kravik came from the Drath Empire, a militaristic society that conquered weaker species and enslaved them. He had won the tournament 5 times in a row, each victory marked by excessive brutality. His war beast Rengor was a genetic creation, built in laboratories and tortured into obedience. He rules through fear, David told Forge one evening. Rengor doesn't fight with him. The creature fights for him because it's terrified of what happens if it doesn't. Forge's mental voice was dark with anger. This is not a bond. This is slavery. Exactly. And we're going to break it. The night before the finals, David received a message. The screen showed Kravik's face, scarred, cruel, with eyes that held no warmth. Human, I have watched your matches. You fight adequately for a primitive species. But tomorrow you will learn the difference between partnership and domination. Rengor will tear your pet dragon apart while you watch. Then I will break you slowly, as I have broken so many others. David met those cold eyes without fear. You don't understand what you're facing. I understand perfectly. You have a trained animal. I have a weapon of war. The outcome is inevitable. We'll see. Kravik's expression twisted into something that might have been a smile. Yes, we will. I look forward to hearing you scream. The screen went dark. David sat in silence for a long moment, feeling Forge's presence in his mind. He thinks you're an animal, David said quietly. Many have thought this. They learn otherwise. Tomorrow, we teach him the hardest lesson of his life, and we free Rengor. David looked at his partner. Can we do that? Free him. We must try. No creature should suffer as he has suffered. Morning came with clear skies outside the arena complex. David suited up carefully, checking every piece of equipment twice. This match will be different from all the others. Kravik was a champion for a reason. Rengor was a killing machine designed specifically for arena combat. But David and Forge had something neither of them possessed, a bond built on trust and respect, not fear and pain. They walked to the staging area together. The crowd above was already roaring, larger than any previous match. This was the championship, and beings from across the galaxy had come to witness it. Rilf met them at the gate. Final advice, human. Kravik fights without mercy. He will target you specifically, knowing that killing you will break your dragon spirit. Protect yourself above all else. Thanks for the concern. It is not concern. It is business. You have been profitable for the arena. I would prefer you survive to compete again next year. David smiled despite the tension. I'll keep that in mind. The gate began to open. Beyond it, the arena floor waited. And on the far side, Kravik and Rengor emerged from their own gate. Rengor was massive, nearly twice Forge's size. His hide was covered in scars and metal implants. A collar around his neck pulsed with red light, the control device that kept him enslaved. Kravik walked beside him with absolute confidence, one hand on a control pad attached to his armor. The crowd's noise reached a fever pitch. The announcer's voice cut through it all. Championship match. Begin. David and Forge moved forward together, and the final battle began. Rengor attacked with terrifying speed for something his size. The war beast crossed half the arena in seconds, his jaws wide enough to swallow a human whole. Forge met the charge head-on, and when they collided, the impact shook the entire structure. David rolled left as Kravik's energy weapon carved a line through the space where he had been standing. The Drath warrior was fast, far faster than Gorvin had been. His movement spoke of decades of combat experience. Through the bond, David felt Forge struggling. Rengor's size and strength were immense, enhanced by genetic modifications and cybernetic implants. Every blow from the war beast carried enough force to crack stone, but Rengor fought without strategy, without thought. Just raw aggression driven by the pain signals from his control collar. David dodged another shot from Kravik and fired back. His bolt glanced off advanced shielding. Kravik laughed. "Is that your best, human?" I expected more from a warrior who has impressed the crowd so. David didn't waste breath on replies. He moved constantly, keeping distance between himself and Kravik while his mind stayed connected to Forge. The dragon was holding his own, but barely. Rengor's implants pumped combat drugs directly into his bloodstream, making him stronger and more savage with each passing moment. Kravik pressed his attack, herding David toward a corner of the arena. "Your dragon will fall soon. Then you will be alone. Helpless. I wonder how long you will last." David feinted right, then dove left as Kravik fired. The energy bolt missed by centimeters. David came up firing, aiming not at Kravik but at his control pad. The shot went wide. Kravik adjusted his shield frequency and advanced. Through the bond, David felt Forge take a savage bite to his shoulder. The dragon's pain flooded through their connection, sharp and hot. David's vision blurred for a moment. Kravik saw it. "Ah, so you feel his pain? How touching. Let me give you more." He touched his control pad. Rengor's collar pulsed brighter, sending agony through the war beast's nervous system. But the pain didn't slow Rengor down. Instead, it drove him into a frenzy. Forge was slammed into the arena wall hard enough to crack the reinforced material. The dragon's mental voice came through the bond, strained but determined. "I cannot defeat him through strength alone. Then we use speed and intelligence. Make him chase you. Tire him out. He does not tire. The implants and drugs keep him going. Then we cut off the supply." David understood what needed to be done. He reached through the bond, sharing his observations of Rengor's cybernetics. There, on the war beast's spine, a large implant fed chemicals into his system. It was armored, but not perfectly. Forge received the information and adjusted his tactics. Instead of meeting Rengor's charges, he began dodging, using his smaller size and agility to avoid the worst attacks. He struck at the implant whenever possible, precise claw strikes targeting the weak points David had identified. Kravik saw the strategy shift and increase the pain signals. Rengor roared, a sound of pure agony mixed with rage. His attacks grew even more wild, but less accurate. "You think you can outsmart me, human? I have fought bonded pairs before. I know all your tricks." David fired again, this time at Kravik's feet. The shot hit the arena floor and exploded, sending shards of stone flying. Kravik's shields handled the debris easily, but he had to adjust his footing to die in that moment. David saw his opening that he charged straight at Kravik instead of away. The Drath warrior's eyes widened in surprise. No one had ever attacked him directly before. Most opponents tried to avoid him while focusing on Rengor. That David's combat blade cleared its sheath as he closed the distance. Kravik brought his weapon around, but David was already sliding beneath the shot. The blade found a gap in Kravik's armor at his knee joint. Kravik howled and staggered. His hand went to the control pad reflexively. David grabbed his wrist. They struggled for control of the device. Kravik was stronger, but David fought with the desperation of someone who understood what was at stake. Through the bond, he felt Forge finally land a solid hit on Rengor's implant. The device cracked that Rengor's movement slowed. The combat drugs began to leak from the damaged system. Kravik snarled and threw David off him. "You dare! You filthy primitive!" He raised the control pad and stabbed at the maximum pain setting. Rengor screamed. But something changed in the war beast's eyes. Pain had controlled him for so long that more pain meant nothing. And with the drugs failing, His natural intelligence began to return. He looked at Kravik. Really looked at him for the first time. Forge spoke through the bond. Now, David raised his rifle and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Not at Kravik. At Rengor's collar. The first shot weakened the device. The second cracked it. The third shattered it completely. The red light died. The pain signals stopped. Rengor stood completely still for a moment, as if unsure what to do without the constant agony driving him forward. Kravik's face went pale. Rengor, attack. Kill them. I command you. Rengor turned slowly to face his former master. Freedom was new to him, but recognition was not. He knew who had caused him years of suffering. Rengor, obey me. Kravik's voice had lost its confidence. For the first time, David heard fear in it. The war beast took one step toward Kravik, then another. Kravik backed away, suddenly looking very small. Stop! I am your master. Rengor's voice came out rough from disuse. No more. The war beast turned and walked toward the arena's edge. He didn't attack Kravik. He didn't need to. Simply refusing to obey was victory enough. David and Forge faced Kravik alone. The Drath warrior looked between them, his weapon trembling slightly in his hand. This changes nothing. I can still defeat you both. David raised his rifle. Can you? Without your enslaved weapon? Without someone else to do your fighting? Kravik fired wildly. David dodged easily. Forge moved in from the side, cutting off escape routes. They coordinated without words, the bond allowing perfect tactical synchronization. Kravik tried to run. Forge blocked his path. He tried to fight. David disarmed him with 2 precise shots. He tried to surrender. David let him squirm for a moment before speaking. You wanted to break me slowly, remember? You wanted to hear me scream. Kravik fell to his knees. Please, I surrender. The match is yours. David looked at Forge. Through the bond, they shared a moment of decision. They could end Kravik here. Arena rules allowed it. He deserved it, but that wasn't who they were. Hit your surrender button, David said quietly. Kravik's hand shook as he pressed the panel. The tone sounded through the arena. The crowd erupted in noise, but David couldn't tell if it was approval or outrage. The announcer's voice cut through the chaos. Surrender registered. Winners by submission. David Reed and Forge. New arena champions. Medical teams rushed onto the floor. Rengor remained at the arena's edge, watching everything with newly awakened eyes. One of the medical staff approached him cautiously, but the war beast didn't attack. He simply stood there, experiencing freedom for the first time. David walked over to him. Rengor's eyes tracked the movement, wary but not aggressive. You're free now, David said. No more fighting for anyone else. No more pain. Rengor's voice came again, slightly clearer. Why? Why free me? Because no one should be a slave, not even in the arena. The war beast looked at Forge. You fight together, not master and servant. Brothers, Forge said, his mental voice carrying weight that Rengor could somehow sense. As it should be. Rengor lowered his massive head, a gesture of respect. Then he turned and walked toward the medical teams who would remove the remaining implants and begin his long recovery. Kravik was carried away on a stretcher, already screaming threats and demands for disqualification. No one listened to him. David and Forge stood alone in the center of the arena as the crowd's roar continued. They had won. The victory ceremony took place 3 hours after the championship match. David and Forge stood on a raised platform at the center of the arena while thousands watched from above. Holographic displays broadcast the event across the galaxy, reaching billions of viewers on hundreds of worlds. Rilth presented them with the championship trophy, a crystal sculpture that caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the arena floor. Congratulations, champion. You have provided the most memorable tournament in arena history. David accepted the trophy, but his attention was on the crowd. He saw beings from species he had never encountered before. Some looked hostile, others curious. All of them were paying attention now. Earth was no longer the primitive world they could ignore. Speech! Speech! Someone shouted from the stands. Others took up the chant. Rilth's mandibles clicked nervously. It is traditional for champions to address the audience. David looked at Forge. The dragon's eyes glowed with encouragement. Through the bond, he felt support and confidence flowing into him. David stepped forward. The crowd noise faded to expectant silence. 3 weeks ago, we arrived here and everyone laughed. They saw a weak human and his pet lizard. Easy targets. A joke. He paused, letting the words sink in. But we weren't weak. We weren't a joke. We were something this galaxy hasn't seen before. He placed his hand on Forge's neck. On Earth, humans and dragons evolved together. Not as masters and servants. Not as conquerors and conquered. We became partners. Brothers. We share thoughts, feelings, combat instincts. When we fight as one being. The crowd listened intently. David continued. Kravik ruled through fear and pain. He enslaved Rengor and called it strength. But true strength doesn't come from domination. It comes from trust, from bonds freely given and freely received. Movement caught his eye. At the arena's edge, Rengor stood watching. The medical teams had removed his implants and cleaned his wounds. Without the drugs and pain, he looked different, calmer, more aware. We freed Rengor because no one should be a slave, David said. Not in the arena, not anywhere. And we won the championship not because we're stronger than everyone else, but because we understand something the galaxy seems to have forgotten. Cooperation is more powerful than domination. He saw reactions spreading through the crowd. Some beings nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable, perhaps thinking about their own use of war beasts or enslaved fighters. Earth wants to join the galactic community, David continued. But we won't do it by pretending to be something we're not. We are what we are, a species that believes in partnership, in mutual respect, in bonds that make us stronger together than we could ever be alone. Forge's mental voice joined his, speaking directly to the minds of every being in the arena who could receive telepathic communication. The dragon's thoughts carried weight and wisdom that came from ancient knowledge. We are not pets. We are not animals. We are dragons, and we choose to bond with humans because they treat us as equals. This is our strength. This is our gift to the galaxy. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some argued. All of them were talking, thinking, reacting. The message had landed. Rill stepped forward as the noise began to die down. Champions, the Galactic Council has requested an audience with you. They wish to discuss Earth's application for Alliance membership. David felt surprise. Already? The application was submitted months ago with no response. Your performance here has changed perspectives. The Council meets in emergency session as we speak. They are prepared to offer immediate consideration if you will demonstrate your bonding capabilities for their evaluation. David and Forge exchanged a look through the bond. This was what they had hoped for. Not just winning the tournament, but gaining the galaxy's respect and attention. We'll meet with them, David said. The council chamber was located in the upper levels of the arena complex. 12 beings sat in a semicircle, representing the major governments and species of the Galactic Alliance. David recognized a few from the databases he had studied. The insectoid hive queen, the crystalline entity called Shardays, the aquatic deep swimmer. All of them watched as David and Forge entered. The hive queen spoke first, her voice a chorus of clicking sounds translated by implants. Human David and Dragon Forge. We have observed your tournament performance with great interest. You claim to have thousands of bonded pairs on Earth. 3,042? As of last month, David confirmed. All volunteers. All equal partners. Shardays, the crystalline being, pulsed with light as he spoke. Demonstrate your bond. Show us what makes it different from standard companion relationships. David nodded. He closed his eyes and opened himself completely to the bond. Forge did the same. Their minds merged more fully than ever before, becoming truly one consciousness spread across two bodies. Through David's human senses, he felt Forge's dragon perception. Through Forge's awareness, he experienced David's human thoughts. They moved in perfect synchronization, executing a complex combat routine without speaking or planning. David's body performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, guided by Forge's spatial awareness. Forge moved with tactical precision that came from David's military training. For 3 minutes they demonstrated, showing the council exactly what a true bond could accomplish. When they finished and separated their minds again, several council members were standing. The deep swimmer's translator rendered his clicking speech into common. Remarkable. We have never seen such integration. It is beyond what our best scientists believed possible. Because you've been trying to create it artificially, David said, through technology or genetic manipulation. Our bond is natural. It evolved over thousands of years. The Hive Queen leaned forward. And you say all your bonded pairs share this capability? To varying degrees. Some bonds are stronger than others. But all are built on the same foundation: mutual respect and choice. Chardays pulsed again. The council must discuss this. Please wait outside. David and Forge were escorted to an antechamber. Through the walls, they could hear muffled voices arguing. The debate seemed intense. After an hour, they were summoned back. The Hive Queen spoke for the council. We have reached a decision. Earth's application for Alliance membership is approved, effective immediately. Furthermore, we request that Earth establish an embassy here and begin cultural exchange programs focused on human-dragon bonding. David felt relief flood through him. Thank you. Earth accepts. However, the deep swimmer added, we must warn you. Not all species will react positively to your presence. Some governments rely heavily on enslaved labor and war beasts. Your philosophy threatens their power structure. We understand, David said. We're not trying to overthrow anyone's government. We just want to show there's a better way. Chardays glowed softly. Your intentions are clear, but intentions matter little to those who see you as a threat. Be cautious in your dealings with the Drath Empire and the Krell Confederacy. They have already lodged formal protests against your championship victory. Let them protest. Forge's mental voice carried to all present. Truth does not require approval from those who fear it. The council members reacted to the dragon's direct communication with varying degrees of surprise and respect. The Hive Queen made a gesture that David interpreted as approval. Well spoken, dragon. The galaxy will be better for your presence, even if the path ahead is difficult. The meeting concluded with formal declarations and bureaucratic procedures. David signed documents in 3 different languages. Forge provided genetic samples for official records. By the time they finished, night had fallen outside. Rilf found them as they prepared to return to their quarters. The prize money from your victory has been transferred to Earth's account. It is substantial, enough to fund your embassy for several years. We don't need it, David said. Donate it to Rengor's recovery and rehabilitation. Rilfa's mandibles clicked in surprise. You would give away such wealth? We didn't come here for money. We came to prove something. We did that. Indeed you did. Rilf paused, seeming to consider something. I have managed this arena for 40 years. I have seen thousands of fighters. Most seek glory or wealth. Some seek death. You are the first I have seen who fight for ideals. Is that so strange? In this galaxy? Yes. Very strange. And very necessary. Rilf extended a limb in what David had learned was a gesture of deep respect. Thank you, champions. You have given us all something to think about. David shook the offered limb. That's all we wanted. The transport ship hung in orbit above the arena station, waiting to carry David and Forge home to Earth. But before they left, there was one more visit to make. The medical center occupied an entire wing of the station. David walked through corridors filled with injured fighters recovering from their tournament matches. Some nodded to him as he passed. Others simply stared at Rengor's room was at the end of the hall, specially reinforced to hold someone his size. David found the war beast sitting on a massive platform, staring out the window at the stars beyond. May I come in? David asked. Rengor turned. Without the implants and scars, his face looked younger, almost peaceful. You're always welcome, Liberator. I'm not your Liberator. You freed yourself when you chose not to attack Kravik. You broke the collar. Without you, I would still be a slave. David sat on a bench near the window. Forge settled beside him, his presence a comforting warmth. What will you do now? The medical team says you're healthy enough to leave whenever you want. Rengor was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. I was created in a laboratory. Trained to fight before I understood what fighting meant. I have no home, no family, no purpose beyond violence. That's not true, David said. You have a choice now. You can decide who you want to be. How does one decide such a thing? Forge spoke, his mental voice gentle. By trying different things. By learning what brings you peace. By finding connections that matter. Rengor looked at the dragon with something like hunger in his eyes. Your bond with the human. I felt it in the arena. That kind of connection, is it possible for one like me? Why wouldn't it be? David asked. Because I'm a weapon. A thing made for destruction. You were made that way, David agreed. But you don't have to stay that way. Every being has the right to choose their own path. Rengor turned back to the window. Outside, ships came and went from the station's docking bays. If I could choose, I would want to help others like me. There are many war beasts across the galaxy. Enslaved. Suffering. Perhaps I could free them. David felt a smile spreading across his face. That's a good purpose. A noble one. But I do not know how to begin. Start small, Forge suggested. There's a rehabilitation center on the planet below. Many former war beasts are recovering there. You could join them. Learn from their experiences. Teach them what you learned from your own freedom. Rengor's eyes brightened. Yes, I could do that. And perhaps, in time, I could do more. In time, David agreed. But first, heal. Learn who you are when you're not being controlled by pain and drugs. They talked for another hour. David shared stories about Earth and the bonded pairs there. Rengor asked questions, his intelligence and curiosity growing stronger as the conversation continued. When David finally stood to leave, the war beast rose as well. Thank you, Rengor said, for seeing me as more than a weapon. You're welcome. And if you ever need anything, Earth's embassy will be here. You have friends now. Rengor's expression shifted to something that might have been a smile. Friends. I have never had those before. David left feeling lighter than he had in days. One life changed was a small thing in a galaxy of trillions, but it mattered. Every connection mattered. The transport ship departed 2 hours later. David watched through the viewport as the arena station shrank in the distance, becoming just another star among millions. Forge settled beside him in the cargo hold they had converted into temporary quarters. You are troubled, brother. Just thinking about what comes next. The Council warned us that not everyone will be happy about Earth joining the Alliance. Let them be unhappy. We did not come to please everyone. We came to show another way. And we did that. But now we have to maintain it. Build on it. Make it mean something beyond one tournament victory. Forge's tail curled around David's feet in a gesture of comfort. We do not do this alone. 3,000 bonded pairs stand with us. And more join every year as new dragons hatch and find their human partners. David nodded. Through the viewport, he could see Earth growing larger as they approached. Blue and green and white, beautiful in the starlight. Do you think they're ready? David asked. The other pairs. For what's coming? Are we ready? We who just fought our way through the galaxy's most dangerous tournament. That was different. That was a controlled environment with rules. And the galaxy is chaos with few rules, Forge agreed. But that is why we must be ready, to show that cooperation and respect can thrive even in chaos. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere. David felt the familiar pull of his home planet's gravity. Outside, he could see the landing facility where hundreds of people waited to greet them. They'll want to know everything, David said. Every detail of the tournament, the council meeting, what the other species are like. Then we will tell them, and we will prepare them. Together. The ship landed with a gentle thump. The cargo door opened, revealing a crowd of humans and dragons waiting on the tarmac. David recognized his training partner, Rodriguez, standing beside his dragon flare. Behind them, dozens of other bonded pairs had gathered. Rodriguez stepped forward as David and Forge descended the ramp. Welcome home, champion. The whole planet watched your fights. You made us proud. It wasn't just me, David said. It was all of us. Every bonded pair that trained together, that learned to trust each other. We proved that Earth belongs in the galactic community. And now the real work begins, Rodriguez said. The government wants us to establish formal diplomatic protocols. They're already selecting pairs to serve as ambassadors to different worlds. David nodded. He had expected this. We'll need cultural training, language lessons, understanding of galactic politics. Already in the works. They want you to lead the program. David looked at Forge. The dragon's eyes glowed with approval. Through the bond, he felt confidence and support flowing into him. All right, David said. Let's get started. The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. David and Forge met with government officials, gave interviews to media outlets across the planet, and began training the next generation of diplomatic pairs. Every day brought new challenges and opportunities. 6 months after the tournament, Earth's embassy officially opened on the arena station. 12 bonded pairs took up residence there, representing Earth to the galaxy. Rodriguez and Flair led the team, with David serving as senior advisor. The first formal diplomatic contact came from Torn Species. They wanted to learn more about the bonding process, to see if similar relationships could be developed on their own world. David spent 3 months visiting their planet, sharing what he knew. Other species reached out as well. Some were genuinely curious. Others were skeptical. A few were openly hostile, seeing Earth's philosophy as a threat to their power structures. The Drath Empire, Kravik's people, lodged formal complaints with the Galactic Council. They accused Earth of undermining traditional authority and encouraging slave rebellions. The Council dismissed the complaints, but tensions remained high. 1 year after the tournament, David received a message from Rengor. The former war beast had established a sanctuary for others like him, providing rehabilitation and training for freed combat creatures. Hundreds had found refuge there. Your example inspired this, Rengor wrote. You showed me that freedom and purpose can coexist. I hope to show others the same. David shared the message with Forge as they stood on a balcony overlooking the training grounds where new bonded pairs practiced combat maneuvers. One tournament victory, David said quietly. And look what it started. Not just a victory, Forge corrected. A statement. A demonstration of what is possible when beings choose cooperation over domination. Below, a young human and a juvenile dragon moved through a complex tactical exercise. Their bond was new, still forming, but David could see the potential there. The same potential that existed in every bonded pair. The galaxy is changing, Forge continued. Slowly, but it is changing, and we helped start that change. David felt pride swell in his chest, mixed with hope and determination. The work was far from finished. There would be setbacks and challenges ahead, but they had proven something important in that arena. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way, a better way, and across the stars, beings were listening to Forge's mental voice filled David's mind, warm and strong. They laughed at us once, brother. David smiled and rested his hand on the dragon's neck, feeling the steady pulse of life beneath ancient scales. They don't laugh anymore. No, now they learn. Together, human and dragon stood watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of fire. Behind them, the future waited, full of possibility and promise. And somewhere out in the galaxy, other beings watched Earth with new respect and understanding. The bond between human and dragon had changed everything. And this was only the beginning. The stars above grew brighter as night fell. David and Forge remained on the balcony, two brothers joined by choice and trust, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Together, always together.